So today I want to show you how to make a pause menu. So when you press a button, it pauses, and you can either press that button again to unpause, or use the resume button to resume the game, use the main menu button to go to the main menu, or use the quit button to quit the application. So for this video, I'll just use this example of a small game I created with obstacles and a coin you can collect to place a sound. If you want to see how to do that, go check out my other video on collectibles. But for this video, we want to go ahead and create a pause menu. So the first thing we will need to create the pause menu is a canvas. So you'll right click in the hierarchy, go to UI and click the canvas. I'll just name it pause menu. And now you can see here we have our level, and here we have this giant screen next to it. Right now it looks a bit dull, so let's do something about that. If I press my pause menu, right click it, go to UI by using text mesh pro, and move it a bit around, scale it up a bit. I'll just go here in the inspector to the alignment, center it, and here I can edit the text. So I'll just say paused. Now I would like to add some buttons to the menu. So if I right click the pause menu again, go to UI, then you can see here it says button text mesh pro, click that, and we have a first button. I've just framed it now. As you can see, it just says button for now, but if you press this little arrow, you can see it's underneath components. You go to the text, here you can edit instead of button. Let's call this resume. I'll just name it resume button. Now we just need to show the player that they actually are marking the button and clicking it. So if you go into the buttons inspector, here there's target graphic normal color. So this is just the normal color of the button. You can change this up if you want. I'll just keep it white for now. Highlighted color, so this is the color the button has when your mouse hovers over it. I'll just change this up to a light gray. And then the pressed color, this is when you press the button. I'll just change it to a dark gray. I would like more buttons than just resume. I would like a button to go to the main menu and a button for quitting the game as well. So I'll just duplicate these buttons. Just name this one main menu button. This one should be quit button. And then I'll just use the drop down menu to change the text. Okay, so now I have resume button, main menu button, and quit button. So if you play the game, you can see if we mark the button, they actually change the color, and if we press them, they change color as well. But something is still off. Well, we shouldn't be able to play the game while it's paused. The pause menu shouldn't be active as the first thing you see when playing the game. And the buttons should actually have some functionality to them. So to make the buttons and the menu act as we want to create a script for this, but we actually don't want it on the pause menu. I'll create a new empty object. I'll call this Game Manager. Empty objects, as you can see, are invisible. You can't see them anywhere in the game. But these kind of objects are great for handling the logic behind the game, where you don't need an object to do something actively. You just need to, for instance, pause a game, go to main menu, whatever. I'll go into the inspector and add a component. I'll just call this GameManagerBehavior. You can call it pause menu, whatever you want. And now I have my GameManagerBehavior script open. First, we want to add some fields to this. And I will serialize this field. Just to recap, SerializeField means that this can still be a private variable, but we can view it in the editor as well. And for the SerializeField, I'm gonna add a game object, and I'm gonna call this game object pause menu. And then I'll need a public static bool called isPaused. Why I make it public and static, I will get to in a minute, because it's normally really bad practice to make something static. But in this case, other objects will need this bool as well. So that's why we'll make it static. I'll explain more in a minute. Let's go over the problems again. So when we started the game, we could see the pause menu right away. The game was still playing and the buttons didn't do anything. Let's start with the first problem. The pause menu is visible from the get-go. So to change this, we will use the pause menu. So remember the variable we added up here, .SetActive to false. So SetActive, this means can the game object do something in the game and is it visible? So if false, it can't do anything in the game and it's not visible. And we want to use a bool isPaused, and we want this to be false, because right now the game is not paused. So right now we've set this object pause menu to be inactive, but we need to specify what is the pause menu in the editor. So if we go back into the Unity editor, then you mark your game manager, you can see in the script it says pause menu, but it has no game object right now. So we need to take the pause menu and drag it in here. So now if we run our game, there's no pause menu because it's inactive. If you go to the pause menu, you can see here it's grayed out a bit in the box, and it's not ticked here. If we tick it, it's active, but it's set to inactive right now, so it's non-visible and we can't do anything with it. But now that it's inactive, we want to show the pause menu at some point. But for this, I'll create a few new methods. First off, we need to show the pause menu when pressing a button. I could write the code for this in the update. It would end up being very unreadable. So I want to separate the functionality of the pause menu in each of the separate methods. So here I'll create a private void pauseGame. What do we want to do when pausing a game? Well, first off, we want to show the pause menu. So it would make sense to say pauseMenu.SetActive. And this time we'll set it to true. Then now our game is paused. Before it was false, but we want to set this to true as well. So isPaused equal true. So in the update method, we want to check if we try to pause our game. So if we type if, now I'll just press twice on the tab key. So to check for any button inputs, we'll use the Input.GetKeyDown. So check if any key is pressed. And then in parentheses, we'll put the key code, and you can use any button you want. I'll use escape. So if the player presses the escape key, then we need to pause the game. So now if we play the game, but if we press the escape key, the pause menu shows up. But we would like to remove the pause menu once more before resuming our game. So for this, we'll create another method. This one we'll make public void. Let's call this ResumeGame. So what do we want to do when we're resuming our game? Well, we want to set the pause menu to inactive again, because now it shouldn't be shown anymore. And we want to set the isPaused to false. So now we can add functionality to pause our game or resume the game. But how will the game know if we want to pause it or resume it, because it's the same button we use? We'll actually need to check in another if statement. So if the game, I use the isPaused bool. Notice that I put the exclamation mark right before it is paused. This means if it's not paused. So if this bool is not true, then we pause the game. Else, so if the game is currently paused, then we resume the game. Let's just go over this one more time. So if we press escape and the game is not currently paused, then it pauses the game. But if we press escape and the game currently is paused, then we resume the game. So now we can use our button to activate the pause menu and deactivate the pause menu. But if some of you maybe already noticed that when I pause the game, it's not really paused. I can still move around. The obstacles and the coin are rotating. So it's not really paused. We're just putting some text up on the screen. Well, first off, when we're pausing the game, we want to make the time in the game stop. Let's say we had a timer, a play time, whatever. For this, we'll use time.timescale. So the scale at which time passes. This means how much time has passed since we began our game. We will set this to 0 because now the time moves at 0 seconds per second. Basically, the time is standing still. And when we resume the game, we want to set the time scale back to 1. So this stops the game time, but it actually doesn't stop the movement of our objects, and we can still move the camera and everything. So to disable the logic of the game, we want to use our bool isPaused. That's why I made it static. The effect of static means that every object in the game can actually access this bool as long as it's public and static. So now for player movement, so here I can check if. So remember the exclamation mark means it's not. Now we need to reference our script. I called mine GameManagerBehavior. So if GameManagerBehavior dot is paused, if it's not paused, then I can go ahead and handle my movement and handle my rotation. And I've done the same for my obstacles. So if the game is not paused, then it can rotate. And the same for my collectibles. If the game is not paused, then it can rotate. So now when we pause our game, you can see that the rotation stops. I can't move my camera, I can't move my player. The coin rotation stops as well. So much better now. Now we actually have the functional pause menu, but we still can click the buttons. So that's the last functionality we'll need. So we need to jump back into a script. So now we need the methods for going to the main menu, resuming the game and quitting the game. Well, we actually already have the resume game. So we'll leave this as is. So now we need the method for going to the main menu. Type public void main menu. The reason I'm making these methods public, because it would normally be better to make this private, but for adding the functionality to the buttons, we need to make this public. So for the main menu, of course, we want to start the time again, time scale back to 1F. And now we need to load the main menu scene. So up here in the usings, we'll add this using UnityEngine.SceneManagement. So what this line does is now we added more functionality and more methods that we can use in our script. So because we have that scene management using, we can use the scene manager dot. We want to load another scene, and in parentheses, you'll put quotation marks because you put the name of your scene. I'll put main menu. And some of you might think, well, I don't have a main menu. Right now, probably you don't. What you can do is go into your scenes folder, click create, and then add a new scene. What I've done is added a scene here called main menu, and I've created a main menu for the scene. I've created this in the very same way I've just showed you how to create your pause menu. And to make sure that you can load your main menu scene when you've created it, you need to go to File and then Build Profiles. And here you see your scenes, and I have my game scene, but I actually don't have my main menu scene. It's not on the scene list. So I need to open my main menu scene and click this button, Add Open Scenes. So now it's in the scene list and it's called main menu. So now when I run this in my script, it'll look for a scene in the scene list called main menu like this. You can call your scene whatever you want, but you have to spell it the same way in the script and when you name your scene in the editor. So now for functionality for resuming our game and for going to the main menu, what we want lastly is quitting the game. So public void, we'll call this method quitGame. And for this, we only need one line. It's just application.quit. Now this method won't work in the editor. It will only work if you build the game separately and run the game from there. So now for a pause menu to work, we need one final thing, and that's adding functionality to the buttons. If we go to a pause menu and you mark all 3 buttons like this, go down the inspector and then the onClick event, hit the plus sign. So now each of the 3 buttons has this onClick event, but now we need to specify what we want to do when we click the button. We want to add the game manager because that has the script for our pause menu, so that has the functionality for the buttons. So you get the game manager and drag it down here, and you do this for all 3 buttons. And now you can use this button to choose the function. So drop down menu, then the GameManagerBehavior or whatever you called your script. This is the resume buttons. So I want the ResumeGame method. For the main menu button, I want the main menu, and for the quit button, I want the quitGame method. So now when we run our game and I press escape, I can either press escape again to unpause or use the resume button. The quit button, as I said, won't work. That only works when you build your game to a separate application, but the main menu button should take us to this scene called main menu. When I press that, the main menu is loaded up. And from here, you can add functionality to these buttons again. For instance, play can start your game again and load up the game scene. So now you should have a working pause menu for your game. I will leave the full pause menu script down in the description. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.